Welcome back to episode 34 of MX Unfiltered, and Moto is officially over with. And now it's time to start focusing on some of the most exciting races where it's the hybrid between motocross and supercross. Wish they had a whoop section, but they're probably not going to have a whoop section. And they're going to have the finale at the Vegas drag strip, which is super, super freaking cool. Well, as always, I've got Coach Rob Beams with me, the mad scientist. How you doing, Coach?
Good morning, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it seems like every Monday morning we always enjoy a cup of Joe together and talk some smack, talk about just moto in general. Sometimes life, sometimes personal stuff, all that stuff. And I just completely
Nope.
cut you off.
Nope. I was going to say, just trying to keep it authentic. That's all. Just keeping it authentic.
I'm looking for help. So if anybody is good at production, make sure you email me. It's on my about page in the YouTube. So we've got Coach, and then we also have the privateer superstar, Jake Masterpool. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I know your brother seems to get a lot of attention, but I wanted to focus in and talk a little bit about you because it seems like you've had some pretty gnarly struggles. I mean, your entire family has, but when it comes to moto, the last, it almost maybe 7-8 years, you've been having some gnarly back issues, and you've got the speed whenever you're on the bike, dude. It seems like you can run up front. So if you mind elaborate a little bit about what happened between, yourself and your brother, that you were on like a trajectory straight into the factories and then just misfortune happened.
Yeah, pretty much. I just kind of had a bad dealt of cards, and yeah, but it's all been good. It was tough because my rookie year was okay. I wasn't able to do the full season, but yeah, I was able to come right in straight into the 450 class and get a lot of 11s, a couple top 10s, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was definitely rough dealt of cards, and yeah, because it was 2019. Because my back injury happened about a month before Hangtown, and that was really frustrating because I was coming in really strong, and yeah, had pretty good speed too because I was qualifying sixth a couple times. I only really did a couple races, so but yeah, and it was really tough. It was a really tough time actually, just because I really yeah, you had that cookie dangling right in front of you, and yeah, the body was just yeah, not there, So it was actually just really weird too, because I've always been a very consistent rider, and I never really got to show that because of the back injury, and you know how it goes in the sports. People really don't really know what's going on, and some people think it's fitness, some people think it's this, and I was pissed because I had the fitness. I was just in so much pain. And the doctors were really clear, like, hey, if the sciatica pain starts going down your leg, you have to stop, or you're kind of screwed. You'll get limp foot and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, just had to really pay attention to the pain. If you know anything about that with riding, it sucks because you can block out a lot, and I really figured out how much you could. But yeah, it's tough when you got to pay attention to it as well.
So was it a herniated disc is what the issue you had?
So I had 4 bulging discs. I had on my L3, 4, 5, and S1.
How did that come about? Like what caused that?
Yeah, I mean, actually in the gym, yeah, physical trainer just had me doing kind of stupid stuff, and the hard part is, you can do anything improper when you're doing lightweight, and the hard part is we were doing this exercise called J curls, and I still think they're pretty good when you do lightweight, but the hard part is just had me doing way too much weight because I was really strong and flexible. So I mean, I was doing like 125. In a J curl. It's basically like your legs are straight and you bend as much as you can. And I'd bring my, I think of just a hamstring stretch. And I was able to bring my wrists past my toes, with 125 pounds, So it's you just putting your back in a very vulnerable position, especially with that weight, and unfortunately some lessons you learn harder than others. So yeah, had to learn it was not wise to do that much weight in that position.
Damn, dude. That's really unfortunate when something like that happens. And
Yeah.
forgive me that I don't know this, but are you older than Ty or are you younger?
Yep. Yeah. So 3 years apart. So Jesse was 3 years older than I was, and then I'm 3 years older than Ty. So we're all 3 years apart.
Okay. Okay. So you guys, he had a lot to learn from you guys. And I saw that, this year you've been doing well. You got points here. I guess let me throw this up here.
Yeah, it was a rough year, but it was still pretty good.
Dude, when you talk about guys that have had some outstanding seasons before as privateers,
Yeah.
like this was a tough season to get into.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool to see how serious everyone is now. Like
yeah,
it's no joke all the way till the 40, and there's some serious guys not making it. That kind of blew my mind this year. Because unfortunately I had a lot of bike issues on the races where I couldn't really do them. But previously, because gosh, my last year was 2020. And I mean it was just like the top 20 that were serious. To be brutally honest, and now it's like, man, there's serious guys all the way back, and they're battling the whole way. It's not like yeah, they're all pretty serious. It's awesome to see just kind of the evolution of the sport, and just, man, it's yeah, a lot of good guys.
yeah, it you gotta, gosh, I mean, coach, you know this as the evolution has gone. It seems like you got to risk more of the biscuit in order to even make the show. And so you made points at Fox Raceway, and then you made points at Washougal. And backstage, you were talking about Epstein Bar,
Mm-hmm.
and so where did that all come about?
So I actually got that a year ago, 2 years ago. Um, yeah, so then I got it dormant. So I'm still learning a lot about the Epstein Bar. It's kind of not what I thought it was going to be. So I was just got it non-active, and then things were coming together well for outdoors. I had a couple of months of good training. Not the building block you need for pro motocross, but yeah, was able to do pretty good. And the hard part, where I think I kind of screwed myself, was Hangtown, because I got some type of stomach bug, and it was gnarly. I mean, I was throwing up, and I had really bad diarrhea from Friday night to about Monday. And I still tried to race, because we were at Hangtown, and figured out later that you're very vulnerable to getting Epstein Bar active again, if you have any type of sickness, any illness. So I think that's where I kind of really messed up, because I still tried to race, especially being at the race. I was like, I'm going to go, because I felt I had, I have good speed, just don't have the endurance. So yeah, I tried to just will my way through it, and kind of screwed myself.
Dang, coach, do you have anything to say about riding with Epstein Bar and just
My heart bleeds for Jake, because Epstein Bar, I always refer to it as a Tasmanian Devil. He kind of sits in the bushes until he gets aggravated by stress, and stress can come from obviously high heart rate. It can come from heat, humidity. It can come from insufficient calories, insufficient sleep, insufficient hydration. That pretty much summarizes a weekend for a top pro. So it's difficult, because what we always say is, once you aggravate the Tasmanian Devil, he comes out, he grabs you by the throat, he slows you back down. And then when you finally get the stress out of the system, then the Tasmanian Devil goes behind the bush and just waits till the next, fatigue state, or extremely highly stressed state. The hard part about it is you never lose it. No matter what people say, it never leaves the blood. And when you're dealing with an athlete, for me, it's frustrating, because my whole platform is based on any fatigue related diseases like Epstein Barr, Addison's disease. All of those can be alleviated. They all should be avoided. I shouldn't say alleviated. They can all be avoided with the right metrics. especially with our sport, telling these athletes that they need to eat a minimal amount of calories so they could be light on the 250. That sets a mindset that permeates all the way down to the young amateur ranks. So there comes this dysfunctional opinion of how do we optimize strength to weight ratios? How do you get the best muscular endurance? How do you get the best sprint speed? You start factoring all that in. And then when you miss the mark, unfortunately, it's like, hey, unfortunately, you now officially have Epstein Bar, chronic fatigue. It's in your blood. You heard what Jake had said about the idea of taking range of motion just a bit too far. And I understand, I get into this online debate probably 3 times a week. I am very public about the idea that I don't think the average person should do deadlifts, squats, clean and jerk. And then somebody else say, well, obviously you don't know physiology. No, I know physiology. The thing that people don't take into consideration, and Jake mentioned the big F word, right? Without flexibility and without proper form, that's the fastest way to herniate a disc, bulge a disc, blow your back out, strain a muscle, tear a ligament. And then the problem is, where's the accountability? So where the online debate comes from is, if you go to some textbook physiologist, they'll say nothing will activate the posterior chain of the body, the backside, like a deadlift. Okay, I understand that. But if I can't get somebody that has the appropriate flexibility without the load bearing, exactly what Jake mentioned, the problem that you run into is injury that becomes compounding that becomes debilitating. And now you've got Jake on the sidelines. And this is why I want to get on every mountaintop that I can and scream, please don't buy into the propaganda that floats around on the internet that the deadlift is the best thing you can do. Go work with somebody who can assess your range of motion, knows your background. And Jake said it best. He's strong. And yes, there's all kinds of mathematical calculations that I personally utilize to make sure that we don't cross that fine line. But you've got to find somebody nearby you that can get their hands on you, watch you, spot you. That's how you're going to alleviate Epstein Bar and any kind of physical injuries. Epstein Bar, I mean, it's very simple. Anybody who's listening to this, pay attention to your sleep quality and quantity, ideally 9, at least 2 hours of deep sleep. Make sure that you're bridging the calorie gap on a daily basis. Otherwise, you create a symptom known as relative energy deficiency. It's a legitimate issue that everybody's dealing with, but it's kind of like the elephant in the room that everybody pushes to the side, and then chronic dehydration. It's because what happens is when you're chronically dehydrated, the muscles can't slide and glide. Therefore, you lose your range of motion. Once you lose your range of motion, then you're putting more of a torque and a tweak on tendons and ligaments, as well as the vertebrae and the discs in between. So unfortunately, my heart breaks for Jake because he's like the perfect storm. And, you see, I mean, I love what Jake said. Jake's speed is there. But once the fatigue related issues kick in, we never get to see Jake to his capabilities because he's simply unable to deliver the amount of necessary energy for the duration of a race. And then he just spins in a circle. So, I mean, my heart bleeds for you because now your career, this is why we're so adamant about working with amateurs before they get to where Jake's at, because by the time they get to where Jake's at, they should be making a good living. Unfortunately, the system has chewed them up and now they're on the downslide. And now you're in desperation mode. Listen to what Jake said. Hey, I was at the races and I thought I could push through it. That's what I love about racers. Elite racers are so mentally tough, but when the physical body doesn't back up that mental tenacity, unfortunately, you have a downward spiral. Yeah. Very frustrating.
So, Jake, you can always. I got high hopes for you, dude. So, what
exactly?
What does your schedule look like? Well, what is your plans on dirt bikes for the next year or so?
Real quick, before I answer that, I had a question for Coach on everything he was just kind of talking about. Maybe a good conversation off screen too, because I'm really into health and fitness, and I love what you said about getting the amateurs young. Because that's one of my big passions now is making sure guys do things with right posture and that kind of stuff. Because what I was really confused on what happened to me with my back is because I was really flexible, like I was very limber and strong. So I thought I was getting in that kind of bulletproof realm.
Yes.
And just to see it kind of turn its head and bite you like that, I was really, and obviously I kind of know why it happened. I shouldn't be doing that much weight in that position. But I was kind of curious on when you really have that flexibility with strength. I very look at you as a very bulletproof athlete, you know, because guys like Sexton are great examples of when you get that great strength with that mobility, man, when you hit the ground, you don't shatter.
Yes. Yeah. We always say that strength without flexibility is useless and flexibility
Yeah.
without strength is useless. And when you
Yeah.
put those two together, now, like you said, this is something that we could elaborate on for, 10 hours. The,
Yeah.
the, the, the end nut result is always compare it against what you are trying to get the body to accomplish. So like if I've got a triathlete that has to complete Ironman Hawaii is different than Ironman Lake Placid. Lake Placid is different than Florida. So you always start with what the demands of the body are going to be put under. If you jumped into off-road, we've done some work with Daniel Sanders. You see him go do Dakar. That's a totally different demand than Mike Witowski doing a 3-hour GNCC. You doing 35 plus 2 is different than 20 minutes at Loretta's. 20 minutes at Loretta's is different than doing a 6-minute sprint. So I think for you, it's like always balancing the body, because your family has a downhill skiing background, right? There's a complete difference between alpine skiing and non-alpine skiing. So if you look at the demands, if you look at the G forces, look at lateral, you have to make sure the body can accommodate and actually be bigger and stronger than the demands of what it's going to be submitted to. So yeah, I think you're right on the. If you're strong and flexible, you've got the right combination to bounce and not break, is what we say with all of our amateurs. 100%.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I've always been a big fan of strength, and just kind of more, even
Hmm.
just traditional strength training, cause when you have that kind of background, it's very easy to put the pieces together, for a very well-rounded motocrosser.
Absolutely. And we say it a lot on here on the show. What's cool about motocross is like we have one of our young athletes, Talon Leach, and phenomenal on the dirt bike. And during the off season, he's doing some mountain bike racing. And this weekend, he went out and got second in his first race. And it's just so cool because if you take a mountain biker and you put them on a motocross track, they probably will wad themselves up pretty bad. But you take a
Yeah.
motocrosser and put them on a mountain bike, and they do quite well, as we saw with Talon this past weekend. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like you got you guys, not because of your family's background, but you can go jump on a snowboard, you can jump on slalom skis, you could jump on a wakeboard, you could jump on a mountain bike, pit bike, you do everything. But
Yeah.
take it the other direction. I no disrespect to those that rock climb, but you guys could go rock climb, but take a rock climber and throw them on your 450 at Glen Helen. It's
Yeah.
just like good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
but
that's kind
I'm
of the funny
sorry.
part is getting people to understand like how gnarly motocross is, because
Yes.
it's been a funny blessing for me because my wife and her family know nothing of motocross. They do now. But it's just kind of funny explaining everything, and then just like it's a whole other world that people are just kind of no idea how gnarly it
Absolutely.
actually is.
Absolutely. Well, and once they finally understand it, how many times did you get the question, why? Why do you do it that way? Why do
Yeah,
you? That's the thing that I
yeah,
noticed as well. So,
yeah,
props to you and your wife for being able to persevere in a sport that has a lot of moving parts. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Stuff.
So, Jake, for your plans for this summer?
Yeah, kind of at the moment unsure. Unfortunately, I just want to get this Epstein bar under control and just kind of go from there. Because right now I'm still lacking knowledge and a good program to get it non-active. So because I'm really into health and fitness. As you guys can tell, but yeah, it's just hard to get it back in the bush, as you were just referring to earlier. Uh, but yeah, just kind of trying to figure that out right now. Just frustrating because I didn't really get to do any of the results I wanted to this year. Just because when I was finally feeling good, I had bike problems, and then whenever I was, it was just a constant battle with that. Because I would have had numerous top 15s, at least. So. Yeah, but it's also been a great success. That's where I'm trying to have a better attitude. Because I couldn't do anything for 2 years.
Yes.
So to not be able to do anything for 2 years, and then barely ride for a year after that, and then like, hey, let's give outdoors a shot, and training will come in and be competitive. I got to appreciate how gnarly that is. You know, I don't have a job of appreciating that, you know. So it's those guys are no joke, you know, and they're very serious, and that's what they do, you know. So it's for me to be working full time, you know, and doing some other stuff and come in and still be, you know, somewhat competitive, you know, is a good feat. And I just got to try and respect that, you know, because as a competitor, I'm just like, I don't care who you are, I'm going to destroy you. So, you know, and it's sometimes you got to be realistic and manage those expectations, you know. But no, it's been a blessing, you know. And my biggest thing this year is I wanted to be content in all things and really enjoy the journey, you know, because I don't give a crap who you are. You're going to have struggles. You're going to have striving, you know. Even though I had a lot this year, everyone's dealing with something, you know. So it's about overcoming those adversities and yeah, just enjoy through it.
Jake, you seem very humble, right? And you know, forgive this being like a direct question in the face. With everything that you've been through, has there been a time when you've just been like wanting to just quit? Just, I'm not going to come back, you know? Did that ever cross your mind at all?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I was in so much pain. Like, it was just unreal, you know. And then after the 3 back surgeries, I didn't even know if I was going to be able to ride again, you know. So it was really, really rough 5 years, you know, at least. So, you know, and I think that's where it's beautiful, you know, because I think it's Romans 5, verse 3-5. You know, it's suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces hope, you know, and it also says about rejoicing in your suffering. And it's like, man, when you have that posture, you know, you're just gonna, in my eyes, you're just gonna succeed in life, you know. So it's about, you know, we joke about it too. It's like you look at any good man, any good person, you know, they've gone through some stuff. So I don't think those are something you can separate. You know, I think those are something you just have to learn to adapt and overcome. You know, it kind of just gets to that simplicity of it.
It's funny how things that happen to you, you know, it's not a matter of what happens to you, it's how you react to it, right?
Yeah.
And it can crush you or it can make you better. In your case, following you, I admire you for overcoming on the other side. Do you think that it was almost like a blessing in disguise? Like, when did you meet your wife? Did you meet your wife during the time that you were injured, or was she already with you all the way through and then she just helped you? I mean, like, any insight on some of the great things that have happened since 2019, you know, you being off the bike?
Yeah. So I actually met her, what was it, 19 or 2020? So it was after I got hurt, you know, I was still racing, but yeah, she was able to come to a couple of the races in 2020. You know, that was my last pretty good year of racing. And then we got married in January 2021. And and then I was able to do a couple races there. And then I messed up my wrist, and the back surgery, we pushed the back surgery off for, gosh, I think a year, because I'm a big believer in, you know, the body can heal itself when you give it the right nutrients and do the right things. You know, I'm a big believer in that. So I want to try everything under the sun, and I did. So yeah, that was good. And then it was really cool just kind of bringing her in and show her the races. And it was kind of funny because I didn't realize it, but our mechanic at the time was talking about how, like, you don't really know motocross because you got introduced to it at like the highest level, you know, because Ty was the star there and I was doing pretty well. You know, I was like pretty much always top 10, you know, and it was just kind of funny because it was like, yeah, you don't really know motocross. So we went to like a local race and that kind of stuff, and she really got to see it. So it was just amazing to see, introduce her to just the amazing motocross community, and just see how everyone's so, man, there's no other word than just family, you know, just, you know. So it's it was pretty neat, and explaining kind of what we do was hilarious to like her parents and that kind of stuff, just because they did not understand it at all. So it was cool.
Well, I was always just a privateer, and my wife, she didn't even know that you could race motorcycles, you know, before she met me. Last question,
Like,
and then
your heart
we'll
rate
start
is high?
talking.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
2025. You plan on racing anymore? Have you been talking to any teams? Can you share anything?
Yeah, we've done some talking, and there's some opportunities, I think, but unfortunately, it's a good thing and a bad thing, but I have no interest in just participating. And if I can't get healthy, I really struggle with that because I know what I'm capable of. And, realistically, it would just be a very tough 3 years. Just where I'm at, the time off, coming back into it, I'm just written off, so I'd have to do 3 years of kicking factory and still not getting a ride, so just kind of analyzing that right now. If I want to, just being brutally honest, if I want to go through that, because I got two great options in life right now. I can come back to racing. The body's doing good, back's doing good, strength is good, physical strength. I just struggle with the Epstein Bar and endurance. So it's just figuring that out. Because there's more things to life. And I think I've finally matured to that. Because that was my biggest thing this year, was coming back because I wanted to. Because I kept racing because I feel like I had to. And now I'm doing it because I want to, and I've had such fantastic support this year to be able to do it, not only with HBI, but Adventure Moto, and David Crawford, Corey, these guys, getting me bikes to be able to go racing, and without amazing people like that, you just, not able to do it, so very appreciative of that. I want to, that itch for racing was kind of good to be back, and it was sweet to see I didn't lose the racecraft, and I was able to, cut through the field quick. But just the Epstein Bar is kicking my butt right now, so it's trying to get that under control, and maybe we can get coach to help out. But so I don't know, just trying to be content right now and see what avenue to go.
What is chapter 2, or what is option 2? If racing's going 1, what's the other option for you, if you're comfortable talking about it?
Yeah, so I got a couple, but right now I've really been working at the facility for the last 3 years, and that kind of stuff with coaching and just kind of help grow the facility and just kind of do things that way. And it's really been a pleasure. I really didn't think I was gonna have as much joy doing it as I have, seeing people not only grow but really turn into such better riders and grow that way and be able to use my knowledge. In the tough things that I've gone through to help others, it's been pretty sweet actually, so I've really been enjoying that. And, I always had a bad understanding of, I always thought I was going to become, one of the best racers in the world to help spread the word and help spread the good news. And it was just very ignorant of me to think that was the only way to do it, where you have much more of an impact in your community and actually what it means to help create disciples and actually create community. And I'd say that's been the best thing about not being able to race, those 3 years.
Sure.
I was forced to be sidelined, and it was just a very good piece of humble pie to, realize how blessed I am, and to, it's just life so much more than we think, and it's about enjoying that journey, and it's like, so, I think I finally matured of, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you can have, it's more about having an impact on one person than trying to impact millions, so it's like, if we all have an impact on one person, you can change the world pretty quick. So it's kind of taking more ownership in the things you have control over, and going from there, and it's pretty rad to trying to make a decision like this, like, hey, do I want to go compete against the best guys in the world, or do I want to do this? It's like not many people are blessed with those decisions, so in a cool spot. So
that's what I was alluding to, Jake. So thank you for the explanation, my friend. Last question. How old are you?
25.
25. Damn, you guys are still like little kids. You guys are still
yeah.
Little kids.
I'm trying to remind myself of that.
Yeah. Like I retired at 26. So question for the panel. Okay, Reese says, when is the Honda CRE coming out? This is honestly the motorcycle that I'm somewhat waiting for to purchase. Okay, we all know it's not liberal Johnny. I am, in fact, voting for Trump. I might have some liberal views, right? But I do own a hybrid Toyota Tundra. It's a V6. Love that sucker. Could smoke the tails off of my V8. So everybody that says small dick, whatever, that Tundra is amazing. Anyway, my point is I don't want a Stark. I want the Honda electric bike because I don't know if the Stark's going to stay around forever. And I'd like to have the software updates and also just the big manufacturer of Honda. Jake and Coach, what are you guys thinking about these e-bikes?
Jake, go right ahead, bud.
Man, I think they're pretty cool. You know, it's definitely a unique thing to be able to come in, you know, because not only do I think it could actually help the sport, because it's never going to replace motocross. People who think that are just, it's just not, you know, it's just like NASCAR. You can't get rid of it. You know, so I think it'll maybe be another class. You know, it's such a weird bike and the power delivery on them is so different where I don't think they could ever race each other. Because I was actually blessed to ride Davey Alta at Loretta Lynn's, and after left, the thing ripped. It ripped. It handled like a 125 and had the torque of a 450. So it's just a weird bike, and you know. So I actually haven't got to really ride the Stark yet out here. I got a couple buddies that have brought them out, but yeah, I think they're cool. You know, it's definitely, I don't see why not. You know, and for the ease of maintenance and that kind of stuff, you know, it's like, hey, why not? Gets more people riding. So,
all right. And then Ben is talking about the Ducati. What are your thoughts on Ducati? And here, I want some speculation with Ducati potentially coming in 2026. Who do you think is going to be the factory riders on there? Coach, you go after Jake.
Man, I don't know. I've heard a couple things, a couple different people on who might be on that, but yeah.
No, we want to hear. We want to hear. Well, please share.
I don't know. We'll see. A lot of rumors, but yeah, I think it's pretty. So
he can't say, you know, so is Ducati, basically what we're getting at.
Huh?
So you essentially can't say what you've heard because whether or not they're rumors, there's some backup to them.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Something's gonna wait for us.
All right, you'll have to tell me off air. Okay,
I mean, it's Ducati, you know, so it's gonna be sick. You know, it's gonna be a big learning curve, I think, for them coming into motocross if they don't have guys with some more motocross experience. You know, so we'll see. You know, but it's also Ducati. You know, so they don't do things half-assed, it seems like. So I think it'll be pretty cool. And I just love seeing the more manufacturers coming in on factory teams, you know, because you've seen how the rider to demand of spots that are open are just not there, you know. So you've seen guys that are, you know, like RJ Hampshire. I think he just wants to be in the 450 class, you know, but it's like he just keeps getting incentivized to stay on the 250, you know. So I think the more we can incentivize, you know, these older guys in the 250 class to go to the 450 class, I think it'll make it much better for both classes and kind of grow from there, you know, because you just see like sometimes there's not room to grow, you know, then you get weird guys like me and even Ty, you know. I mean, Ty was unreal, you know. He's been kicking ass for a while now and he's still a privateer, and then he finally gets a chance and then you see what happens, and it's just that there's no room. I mean, who are they going to pick? You know, this 450 guy that's doing great or a 250 champion? You know, it's you can't blame the teams for going with the 250 champion, you know. So it's just that feeder program they kind of want to stick to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mike Brown was the one that originated the whole stay in the 250 class forever. Then the Martin brothers, they even stopped themselves from pointing out of the 250 class. I know there's the new rule now with if you've won a championship, you can have like 1 year to defend, and then you're out for sure. They've definitely changed the rules to try to have that happen. But my biggest thing about the e-bikes is just a little bit to allude what you were talking about, Jake, was it's the cost of going racing, you know, and that's why a lot of people pick the 450 class, is because it's just easier to hop up a 450 because you don't really need to do a whole lot to it compared to the 250, you know, because the factory 250s, they're making 50 plus usable horsepower when those suckers are stock at like 36. Your 450s 47. And you know, if you could just maybe have different ECU in it and make it a little bit lighter, you're kind of good to go to be able to, as long as you're talented like yourself, to be able to get inside of the motos. It's interesting because like the 450 class to me seems like there's more talent as far as the top guys, but then the 250 class, there's more depth outside of the top 10, and there's more money for the teams to be spending after that fifth to whatever. And those e-bikes are going to enable you to spend less money but still have a top tier equipment. You know, that's my take on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the weird thing. That's where I would be interested to see the numbers on it, because I've never understood why you'd have more factory 250 guys than more factory 450 guys off of just like a numbers thing. Because, you know, maybe it's because of their salaries, but yeah, I don't understand it, because 250 is a heck of a lot more expensive than a 450, especially those factory boys. They're throwing all they got at it. You know, it's insane. You know, it is. I just love it because I'm kind of mechanically sound on working on stuff, you know, and just seeing, you know, just the attention to details, you know, that these pro circuit boys are putting on these bikes is just amazing. Yeah. You know, no stone goes unturned, you know, and I really appreciate that. And just the fantastic environment they have, you know, because a lot of teams lose that, you know, they lose that kind of friendly family environment, you know, and it's, it's been a breath of fresh air. I've been super pumped for Ty, and it's just, he's where he needs to be. So it's good.
Hell yeah. And what I've heard from people in the industry is a lot of the 250 guys, sometimes they're willing to race just for bonuses, right? So it's like real minimum salary, we'll give you a bike and boom, boom, boom. And that's one of the things that where the sport should potentially change. I don't necessarily say unionize, but to the point where, you know, you've got a top guy, then you've got your B guy that's going to fill in, but they're all still making a decent salary, right? It's not just like you keep what you kill, versus if you are just to fill in for somebody, you know, it doesn't really come with a paycheck. But
I think that's ready to be cool too, for even a C, like a third guy on the team, where it's like, hey, we're just giving you the equipment to see what you got. Because there's so many guys that were scratching on that surface, like myself, you know, my rookie year and my 19 year, where I know if I had a factory bike, what I would have been doing, you know, and so do those guys, you know, they're not, and I think that's where it's cool too, to have a little bit more of those tester kind of setup, where it's like, hey, yeah, why not? We'll give you a chance, see what you got, and then see where it goes from there, you know, because at the end of the day, the sport's off performance. You know, they don't give they don't care what you're, like, if you're not getting results, you ain't going to stay around. So, you know, once you realize how cutthroat the industry is, you know, you can, just capitalize on it too, you know, so it's just, you welcome that opportunity or don't.
You make a good point, because a lot of people end up giving these guys a hard time because of loyalty. They're like, hey, you should have been loyal because those guys did that. But again, you're absolutely right. It's very cutthroat, you know. If one guy's offering you a paycheck and the other guy's not, do you feed your family, or do you just stay loyal, and then potentially something bad happens and now you're down shit's creek because you don't have a paycheck and you got hurt, you can't even go racing, kind of a thing, you know? So I think when people come with a different perspective, they can forgive some of these athletes a little bit more on some of their decisions.
Yeah. Well, and it's tough too, because that's where I would really kind of enjoy a little bit more transparency in our industry, where, man, people are always dealing with stuff and you never really know like the true story. You never really know what's actually going on behind the scenes. And it's, I think it'd bring a lot of light to the industry too. And I think it'd help it grow, you know, because that's where, you know, we talked about a lot of things as far as, you know, track development, different layouts, you know, because just to help the sport, because we've always been kind of against the start, just because like if you look at any serious motocross sport, any motor sport at all, it's a staggered start. It's predictable. Whenever you just have like a roll of the dice for the start system, and determines the whole 30 minutes of racing, it kind of makes things rough, because just listen to the announcers, listen to the fans. When you finally have the top 3 guys together, 4 guys off the start, you're like, oh, we got a race on our hands, and it's like, you could have that every weekend, so it's, there's a couple of things that I'd be interested to see the sport. I don't know if that's try a little bit more, I think that's where the playoffs could be a neat little tester of doing more of a staggered start, or even how the Euros do it, MXGP, where that first gate is dominant, where it's like you want that first gate, and if you're second pick, you want that second gate, because starts like this last one at Ironman were terrible, where you can get a start from the outside, goodness gracious, just creates such a bottleneck where it's so dangerous, where it's like, man, if you can get all of those top guys starting together, gosh, you'll have such an amazing race, but we don't want to sacrifice that 3 seconds of excitement for 30 minutes of good racing. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I don't know,
Dude. I've never heard that, and I feel silly that I've never even thought of that myself. You're right. Moto GP, pretty much all forms of top tier motorsports, from NASCAR to anything, is staggered. And like this last weekend with Ken Roczen qualifying second, like that was a huge good storyline to have him right behind Deegan. And if they could go around the first corner 1 and 2, dude, everyone would be, all the Ken Roczen fans and all the Deegan fans. From a fan perspective, that is the race that I personally wanted to see. And so if I wanted to see it, I know damn well that there was tens of thousands of other people that wanted to see that same race.
Yeah. Well, that's where it's cool, because the cream always rises to the top, but man, like think of how many races have been ruined because of a bad start. How many championships have lost because of a bad start? You know
Look
what I
at
mean?
Dylan.
It's like,
Look at Dylan Ferrandis just this weekend, first moto.
Yeah. Jeez,
Your point well taken, because he had good gate pick. He's on the inside, and
Man,
then
think of how many guys have done that on the start. I mean, that have ruined their championships.
Yeah. Well, it was 2 years ago. It was Austin Faulkner. He was coming back from a lot of injuries, and then he gets taken out by his teammate just right there on the start. And if they were literally the staggered, okay, not that, okay, there's nothing saying that moto guys are pussies. Absolutely no. They risk their lives all the time. But that start is so freaking, look at this weekend, where not this weekend, but this year, Hunter almost ruined his Supercross championship hopes because of Vince Freeze cutting everybody off. Grant Harlan did ruin his Supercross season because of what happened. And if these guys just were staggered, it would keep everyone safe. How many times have people come around the first corner and have been gnarly injured? Look at Trey Kennard when he got landed on. That was the first lap, right?
Yeah.
Not saying that you're not going to have exciting racing, but everyone is going to be healthy and clean around the essentially first lap, because you'll have that like bike length kind of between each other. Nobody's going to really be getting landed on per se.
Yeah. Well, that's where it's frustrating, because to think that you're getting rid of the excitement is just totally ignorant, and it's just not true. It's just like, there's so many different ways you could set up the start system where it's still exciting, and that third guy could still beat the first guy. You see that happen in Formula One. When you set it up properly, you still have that excitement. It doesn't have to be how they do the staggered start now, where everyone has to go through this one thing. It can be like any staggered start in any other motorized sport. You know what I mean? Like, we're the only ones that held back by bear traps for some reason. And, that's whenever you learn, I mean, there's so many cool ways of doing it, and I really think the racing would thrive, because I've heard a lot of complaints from sponsors where they don't like the start, where it's the roll of the dice. They don't have a guarantee their guy's going to be up front. You know what I mean? Like they just don't.
Or even make it through the first turn, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
All that time and money, and it's over.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great
and
thing for us to kind of observe, where it's like, why not try it? You know what I mean? It's like, would it be that bad to have one playoff race? Try it. and see how it goes, you know, or hey, just do a random ass race and see how it goes, you know, because gosh, when you look at our sport, you look at the fans, you look at the intensity, you look at how gnarly it is. It's like, we got so many things that sports don't have that are so exciting that people are not even that aware of. And gosh, you just see the growth and you just see I think we're capable of much more than we think, you know, so.
Dude, and honestly, you're absolutely right with the super motocross races that are going to be at drag strips. Cause I do think like if you're going to do a staggered, you might need a little bit longer of a start, maybe just minutely, you know, but everyone's relatively going to get there. You could honestly increase the speeds on the start and have it still be safer because everyone has, what would you say? It would be foot peg to foot peg kind of a thing. Foot peg to front wheel would be kind of how it would be staggered, just like in Moto GP. Moto GP, I think they might be a full bike length or two for everything.
Honestly, it could be shorter too, because all you need to do is have that first turn to the left of the first gate. That's all you need. And it will naturally turn into a staggered start from there, where there's no reason for the first gate pick guy to pick the fifth gate. When you have that first turn, you know, say 10 feet to the left of that first gate, you're naturally going to have a staggered start. And that can be shorter, that can be longer, whatever. But when you have, because you guys see it all the time, where that first gate, you literally have to come to the right and to not go off the track. And when you do that, it just naturally creates a bottleneck. And it's just, man, it's when you make that pressure situation and every single one of those guys is trying to get a start, things are going to go wrong.
Yeah. Ben says, look at the first turn crash in MX2 in 2012. Tommy Searle and Hurlings wiped out first turn. One of the maddest first turns I've ever seen. You know, they were both going for the title. Like that ruins the racing. Absolutely. If the top guys that you're rooting for are out. Right.
Yeah.
And as far as you get this a lot, like whenever I make some sort of video of something, people are like, we don't care. We don't care about the guys in 30th or what. We want to watch the top 10. And truthfully, yeah, that's how it works. Those guys are the ones that get the most press time. You know, they're the heroes of everybody. So why not, as a sport, collectively make it guaranteed that those guys are going to be out front together, but they're so close to each other that anything could happen. If you had first through fifth in points pretty much all the time, racing each other first through fifth, them going back and forth, that would make some amazing racing, as opposed to, like you said, some guy getting an 18th place start, and there's no way Tomac is going to be able to come through the pack inside of 20 minutes in a supercross to get up to Jet. Just not going to happen.
No.
And Johnny,
next time you watch a race where, sorry to interrupt, but watch a race.
No, go, Jake. Yeah.
Where your first guy and your second guy, not even that, but sorry, the second fastest guy, when they get a bad start, they're like 10 seconds behind the guy in the first three turns. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you make up that time unless you're unreal faster? You just can't. You know what I mean? It's like, even if you're a second faster, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of laps to make up.
And Johnny, take what you've been saying. What if we only had, for conversation's sake, let's say we had a 20-man main event that's only factory bikes with a staggered start based on qualifying time, like Moto GP. And then you have your secondary class, which is exclusively for privateers, same thing. That, because what's being said in the chat room, the staggered start would hurt the privateers more than the factory guys. Point well taken. So partition the race off. Now the spectators get yet another race where at least the bikes and the equipment are on par with one another. So then you literally just build it up. And like you said, after maybe X amount of races, whoever's top 3 or top 5, maybe you get those top 2 guys end up making the, let's call it the A group, which is all the factory bikes. So everybody's got an incentive to keep doing better, not just everybody settling. This is, to Jake's point, exactly. You've got guys that if they knew that it was all going to be about that pole position, if we may use Moto GP as an example, qualifying would look completely different. The way they train would be completely different. The way they'd approach it would be completely different. I mean, what does Webb always say about the qualifying? don't pay for qualifying, therefore he doesn't care about it.
Maybe that's just because he's bad at qualifying. Because he's always like 10th or something.
But to Jake's point, though, it would be a game changer if he was sitting in at a 20 guys on the gate. He's in 10th place staggered, because that's kind of been his trump card, is that he can step up when the pressure's on. It paradigm shifts everything to Jake's perspective, and we end up all getting a better race because of it.
100%. And I guarantee you ask guys like that, they're guaranteed to have a 10th place start. They'll take it. A guy like him will take that, because and to the comment of it hurts the privateers on a staggered start. Watch any race. You can't compete with those factory boys on a start. I don't give a crap. You know what I mean? And we've always been pretty good starters, and and that's where my sizes always work, is when push comes to shove, I can get a good start. But those factory boys, they got it figured out. There's a reason why those factory bikes are always up front. Okay. They know what they're doing. All this would help is not only the safety, but the consistency of having the top guys with the top guys, and the cream rises to the top. You've seen it time and time again with even privateers coming through the pack, passing factory guys and working their way up. If you give those guys, there's a couple of them right now that would love to guarantee have a 10th place start. Because right now it's screwed me so many times of having a bad start, and I got to work all the way up to 10th. I've had numerous races like that, especially 2020 when I was fit and pretty quick. Back was still bad, but I had numerous times of coming from last to 10th. And it's like, if I could have started in 10th, you know what I mean? I would have been pumped, and it's
your sponsors would have been pumped. Everyone would have been pumped. More people would have been like, hey, Jake is a consistent guy. Let's give him a bike, because he's going to be top 5 there. And I love
there's so many guys, because that's where I love not even using myself as an example. I actually don't like using myself as an example, but there's so many guys. And I guarantee you, if you ask him, think of Tomac, think of all of these guys where they've had so many races ruined because of just one little mistake on the start. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, when the system's set up where it just totally destroys you for making a mistake, it's like, we're human. We're going to make mistakes.
To your point, we saw Deegan in the first moto, right? Got clipped off by Vial. Vial cuts over. Deegan comes out of the first turn. He's buried 14th or 15th. It gets up to 10th by the end of the moto.
Yeah. Well, and then even Deegan.
And we could have had an exciting race like that with Vial and Deegan right from the get-go. Every race this year. Every race.
Well, from Supercross.
Think of it in that context. It's like every single race could have been that exciting.
And how many times
when he got taken out?
Go ahead, Johnny. Excuse me.
Sorry, Coach. What?
No. Go ahead. I've got my
no. With Evan Ferry, where he ran into the wall at one of the Supercrosses. Deegan was taken out there, and he thought Tom did it, and there was that whole fiasco too. I think, what was it? Was it this year or a year before at Daytona? Sexton ended up running right into the first turn, just hits a shit ton of mud, and then he's down. Like, there's so much of that, and I love Jake's. Just, that is a miraculous idea to happen, because it's not reinventing the wheel. It's taking what works from other racing platforms and then just integrating it into our own sport to help grow the sport.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where we kind of take a card from, rugby and how football used to be. Not that we need to be how football is today. You see where it goes too far. But you see where that evolution can either grow or you'll stay where you're at. You know what I'm saying? And nothing against rugby. Rugby's gnarly. I ain't going to say nothing bad about those guys. But you see where, when you organize things in a proper way, how the sport can thrive. There's no reason why football is not $1 billion industry, and when you see where it's like, hey, if you can come back to me with like good arguments on why to not do a staggered start, I'm all for it. But like, when your debate is not that valid, it's like, why don't we try it? It's because there's always going to be negatives and there's always going to be cons, but I would love to have a numbers guy go and see how many guys' race and injuries have been from the start. I mean, we just talked about a numerous of them, but we all know there's hundreds more, and it's just that, man, I would love to see it grow that way, and it's I just don't see any reason why not. It's like, sacrifice 2 seconds.
I guarantee you, every single factory guy, if they said, hey, let's go to staggered starts, they would raise their hand and say, yes, let's do it. because they're first going to be like self-preservation that's honestly the most dangerous part of the race is the start,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
And so you take that out, and truthfully, what has happened now, I've been a big proponent about like a lot of the injuries that have happened have become of the lack of separation because of the damn grates, because again, like Jake, what you were saying is it doesn't matter if you're on the far inside or the far outside. You're not in a rut that has a giant hole in it or whatever. You're just on this metal pad that you just have to get RPMs up to a certain degree, and boom, you're out of there. And therefore, these guys are inches away from each other rather than a wheel or whatever. The staggered start is an amazing idea.
Hey, Jake, were you at Loretta's this year?
Yeah.
Did you happen, and this was a question that nobody could answer for me. I noticed if you were in the first 5 to 8 gates that you actually had to go to the left to go right around the corner. Was it always that severe of I thought it was a little more of a straight shot. I don't remember it having to go to the left quite so severely because like you're saying earlier, now you've got the inside that has to go left into a right-hand corner.
Yeah.
And I was just curious if you had seen it like that before, or maybe I just never noticed it.
No, the reason why I'm smiling is because that inside gate used to be my gate.
Yeah.
They totally did. Yeah, and I brought it up to a couple of guys on how much more dangerous that is because they kind of did it for the water truck road, but they just brought in the hay bales and everything in way too much, and it just destroyed the first 3 gates. And then it kind of made the 5th gate kind of where it used to be. Because to start like that, it could be awesome, with that first gate just being more straight through it, because it just makes things so dangerous when you get a bottleneck like that, because you get, especially kids like that, they're going for it, at least in the pros. Well, the 450 class, there's a little bit more of that respect, and there's a little bit more of that, hey, I'm not trying to kill myself right now,
Well, I always look at it, if you measure it, right? If you have to go extra distance to the left versus a straight shot, which is not any different than being out in the left 40, you've got to go an extra 10 to 11 yards distance-wise to get to the same apex of the corner. So you've got this guy on the far outside going, let's just say 10 yards. You've got the person on the inside that's going 5 extra yards. And then you put that one in the middle. Unfortunately, the guy on gate 5 gets wheel spin. So that puts him at the same apex and point at the same time that nailed the inside and nailed the outside. But mathematically, they all come together where the staggered start would alleviate that at the amateur ranks. And I just think about these poor parents who spend so much money getting to the race to have the race over in the first turn of the first moto of the week. Everybody's wadded up, bikes broken.
Yeah, and I heard so many stories like that this year. These families that are the first time there, kid broke a femur right there, first race, and you're just like, why? Like why are we still doing this? Is like my biggest frustration. Because it's like, I'm not trying to change everything, but I'm like, why not? It's like I love that debate. I love that challenging where it's like, hey, if it's a better idea and it's going to make things safer, better racing, guaranteed, why not?
Well, I like the way you said it. If you can give me a legitimate explanation as to why your idea is not a good idea, you're as much ears as you are saying, listen to my idea, because I think it's a good one. We can get into a political debate, but that's a problem nowadays is nobody can share ideas. It's got to be only one person's allowed to be right. And if you say anything contrary, then you're jaded and you're full of animosity and all this other stuff. So that's the part that's a shame. But I like the way you articulated it. Why not emulate success? Moto GP, they have a grid start. Formula One has a grid start. We should at least give it a shot.
Look at the top of motocross. I mean, motorsports. Sorry.
NASCAR.
Well, and honestly, you could even do something like Offie saying, would there be a handicap for the start depending upon qualifying time? And
I think it would just be the same.
I could just say with electronics. Sorry, Jake, what?
I don't see why to change that. Just do the same as it is now.
Yeah, I mean, but where my mind is going is you could leave the gate the same. It just could be at 90 degrees, right? And then you could just program every gate to go off a half of a second before, so everyone's revving their bikes, and it's just like boom, 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 and so if somebody gets, like you said, a little bit better of a drive, they could still potentially beat the dude in front of them, but it's not like they're going to go from 40th to first. And then that's also going to, if somebody does go down, well, you're half a second behind that person, you can avoid it, and vice versa. I think that would maybe work.
But think
I've
about
had
like
too many
Moto
start
GP.
malfunctions to agree with that one.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I just look at the mechanical side of it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's gonna be a headache. Because that's what I love about the fast reaction of the gate drop. That's what I think is so cool about the gate drop, is because you got to be so on it. That adrenaline and that being on the gate and that super fast reflex is so cool. So that's where I think if you keep either the light system, how they do on most motorsports, or just like putting that first turn, 5 degrees, 10 degrees, to the left of the inside gate, if it's a left-hand turn, then you can get that consistency. And then there's no argument of like, oh, my gate drops slower, and then, because I like that idea, because it'd do the same thing of organizing it. It would organize it in a safe manner where it could go through, because you can see where it works, but I don't know.
But you'd have to do a lot of testing to make sure that it actually works when it happens.
I've been sitting there too many times on a start gate and feel like my bike's about to blow up because I'm holding it pinned.
Yeah, well, and then you blow up your clutch basically, because it doesn't take long for those plates to get so hot that it's gone.
But Johnny, think about like Moto GP though. You got somebody that's in second pole position. He just doesn't nail the start just right, and that guy in third and fourth, they nail it. They grab the second shift, and then all of a sudden the guy that poled, he's all excited. He got a pole position or one or two, goes in the first turn and fourth, game on, right? Because now that guy in third and fourth was like, which I think is, I like the word pressure. That guy in third and fourth is like, if I can get to the front, all I need is for him to blip just a little bit. And if I polish that second shift, I own that first turn. Now we've got a completely different dynamic. I like the way Jake said versus the rolling of the dice, where you just hope and pray that you don't get a little bit of a wheel spin or somebody doesn't bump into you, or it's all over.
Think about how many times that's happened to the best starters out there. Arguably Jet's become one of the best starters, and it's like he's blown it a couple times this year. You know what I mean? And it's just like, yeah.
Well, you guys, I don't mean to cut this short because I'm really enjoying this conversation. I got to go wake up somebody that just is now screaming at me. But hey, Jake, I appreciate having you on for episode 34 of this year. I will leave it to you. Is there anything that you want the viewers to know that you got going, or what? But it's just been a pleasure having you on here, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm in a good spot. Definitely frustrated with how the season went. I bummed out just because of like bike issues, and then when we got the bike figured out, my body was giving out. But just that kind of persevering, through the things, and when you can accomplish much more than you think, and I've really been enjoying here at the facility. We're starting to open the doors a little bit, and we're starting to accept a couple of A riders, B riders, and going down from there, a couple of guys in each classes, because we're looking more for character, and guys who actually want to go all the way, not to be, I hope I can say this. You guys know me. I'm not boastful, but, we got a program that can take you all the way, and not to mention we have a different track every day. We design the track for riders. We have 4 supercross tracks. We got an amazing program here that our parents have sacrificed so much for us, and it's always been open for everyone else. And now we're just, trying to help more people succeed in a sport that's brutal. We love it.
Where's it located at, Jake?
We're in Paradise, Texas. So like we're an hour northwest of DFW Airport. We're actually 40 minutes from Texas Motor Speedway, where they're going to be doing the one of the playoffs. I think the 14th or something.
Very cool.
Awesome. Is there a website or anything that we can go to if we wanted to sign up?
Yeah, so the best is actually just reaching through us on Instagram, that kind of stuff, at his 956 training facility, or even mine personal. And their website, we're going through a new one right now. Try to organize that. I think it's still up, but it's an old one. But yeah, you can check it out there. And if you really want to see it, just message us. And if you're struggling where things are at, if you didn't like how Loretta's went and you really want to change it, I would recommend giving it a try and letting us know and seeing what spots are available.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Well,
I'll
can I get you to drop with us?
Touch with Coach about Epstein Bar. See if we could see if you can help me out here. See if I can.
Absolutely.
I love learning things new. So I love.
I'll be happy
to. The attitude of keep learning. So yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll send him your number after this, Jake.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll send him your number.
Yeah.
Well,
I
appreciate everybody joining the show. Till next time, keep it WFO.